Today we're going to be talking about delivering secure remote examinations. It's a bit of a tough subject at the moment, considering that we're heading into the examination season. A lot of uncertainty relating to who's going to be able to go back to school, who's going to be able to go back to colleges, who can go back to work in order to write an invigilated examination. And so the most important reason why we want to deliver secure exams is obviously from a cheating perspective. So what is cheating? Cheating is an act of deception that's intended or attempted to gain an undue advantage at a test. And today what we're going to be talking about is a whole range of different types of ideas and systems and procedures that you can put in place relatively quickly in order to offer secure exams. Feel free to type in questions in the chat facility. We're streaming as well on YouTube, so if you're on YouTube, feel free to type in a comment in YouTube. We'll be monitoring the questions, and after the presentation, we'll be answering all the questions that you have. It's quite a difficult concept to try and wrap your minds around. Is how do we secure an exam if we've got no control over the exam or where the students are? And so we first want to talk about different ways that students cheat on exams. So on remote exams, here's 5 different ways that students are able to cheat. First one, very simple, screen sharing or mirroring. They're sitting in front of their computer. You think that you're monitoring them some way, but in the background, they're actually sharing their screen, and there's somebody anywhere else in the world that is able to see that screen at the same time, and together with some cheating devices, it could be just an earpiece, where they can hear somebody else giving them the answers while those people are seeing the screen, the mirrored screen somewhere else. And so those are 2 ways you can cheat. A third way is with a mobile phone. You keep the phone on the side. You can just read out the question. Somebody can hear it, announce it to them, and they can use that as well to cheat with. When you're dealing with software and programming specifically, or software development exams and tests, there's software out there that generates coding for you, generates software code for you. It's no more detailed type in software, thousands and thousands of lines of code. There's systems out there that with a click of a few buttons, it will actually generate the code for you. And so you've got to ensure that they are not using this type of software. And most important, and I think a very big one that we want to talk about today, is impersonation. How do you know that it's really the student himself or herself that's sitting in front of the computer or at the desk wanting to write the exam? And so those are the types of things that we are going to be discussing how we can avoid today. This is not ideal. It's not an ideal situation to do remote invigilation, but we're going to talk about different systems that you can consider. We're not trying to sell any fancy software here. We're just going to be giving advice on how to use existing software that you're probably already using in order to at least try and bypass some of these ways that students try to cheat. It would be ideal if no one cheated and you could just trust them. Unfortunately, that's just not the case. And so to begin our presentation, we want to talk about secure remote exams and the 4 components of secure exams. So the first component is verification. You need to confirm the student's identity before you release the exams to the students. And ensure that it's actually the correct person writing the exam and not somebody impersonating them. So verification is a very, very important tool, and we're going to be talking about that in a lot more detail shortly. The second item is actually the delivery of the exam. Now, there's different ways of delivering the exam. You can make the exam available, and the students can print out that exam, put it on their desk, and then they work on a piece of paper and write the examination. The other way is to have the exam online on their computer, just on their screen, viewing the questions on their screen, and then using a piece of paper to write the answers for the examination. And obviously, the third one would be where they actually see the examination online, and they also answer online, whether it be question types that get marked automatically, such as true and false, and match the columns, fill in the missing words, those type of questions, or whether they are paragraph and essay questions, but still you wanting the students to type them online. So there's a whole range of different types of exams, and we're going to talk about how we can securely deliver each and every one of them. The third component, you've got to invigilate. You've got to make sure that the students are not cheating, as we discussed. And we're going to mention and provide some ideas on different ways of invigilating. Now, there are fancy systems out there that you can go and you can purchase to do remote invigilation. There's even very fancy systems that use artificial intelligence to identify whether a student is acting not in a normal way, and they can be flagged immediately as a potential cheater so that you can investigate that. But we're not going to be talking about those fancy systems today. Just going to be talking about different ways that you, with whatever tools that you've currently got, that you can do some invigilation literally from tomorrow morning if you wanted to. And then the fourth and final is submission. The students have now received the examination, they've written the examination, you've invigilated them, they need to now submit it in a secure environment. You can't have submissions open for the next 3 hours after the exam is finished. It defeats the whole purpose. They can go and find the questions, fix up the answers, and then submit it. You need them to submit the examinations as quickly as possible, give them a time limit, especially when it's paper-based and they need to scan them. So to dig down a little bit deeper, on verification, how do you verify students? So here's some ideas and tips. First thing, you should all be very familiar with Zoom. I'm sure you all are. We all use it every day, all day. In my household, sometimes there's up to 6 or 7 Zoom sessions going on at the same time. We're using Zoom right now. So it's a system that you can use to monitor your students while they are writing the exam, and we're going to talk about how you can do that. First thing that I would recommend is to have a paid account on Zoom, where you can have many more students as well as unlimited time. All students and invigilators would log into the same Zoom session. And the first thing you would do is you would do a roll call attendance. Make sure that the students that should be there are there. How do we do that? Well, in Zoom, I don't know if you've noticed, but whoever speaks on the normal Zoom system pops up in the middle of the screen as the focus. So you could do a roll call each student's name. They need to say, yes, I am here. And when they are there, their video will pop up on the screen. So the first thing you can do is you can eliminate the risk of impersonation using multi-factor authentication. And what do I mean by that? Well, you may know who the student is, but you may not. You may have lots of students and you need to verify who they are. So some suggestions: ask the student while they're in the center of the screen to hold up their ID book as well as their student card, or both, and you can verify that the photo on the ID book and the name is matches the video and matches the name that you have called out in the attendance. And that's just a nice, simple way of taking roll call. You can do it relatively quickly. You don't have to rush through it either, but give time before the exam's meant to start and tell the students they need to be online by a certain time so that you can take roll call. And in order to make things simpler, because you may have hundreds of students logging onto the Zoom session, and that is to create breakout rooms. I don't know if you've ever used a breakout room in Zoom, but essentially what it is it creates little mini meetings or sessions within the main Zoom session. So you can move 20, 30, 40, or 50 students into each little breakout room, and you can assign an invigilator to each of those breakout rooms. So in one big Zoom session, you can be doing all your invigilation, but you can divide it into little groups of 20, 30, or 40 students, and the invigilator can monitor his or her group of 30 students. Most important, you've got to do a practice run, maybe even 2 practice runs with the students. Make sure that they've got their computers working correctly. Make sure that they understand what's needed of them. Make sure that you and your invigilators understand how to use the systems correctly, how to do the roll call, and how to use the breakout rooms. And so that's really how we recommend doing verification. Now, how do you actually deliver the exam securely? So the first thing you can do is you should schedule the release of your exam papers. Now, I'm making the assumption that you're using a learning management system already. It may be called Campus, it may be Google Classrooms, or maybe another system. Whichever system it is, it should have the functionality to schedule the release of content. So students will only have access to the exam paper at a particular time. At that time, they will be able to open the exam paper and view it or print it so that they can sit next to the exam paper on their desk and view it. The students could also view their questions online, so they just leave if you release the paper in PDF format, they can leave it on their screen and they can see it and they can scroll through the paper while they are doing the exam, either on paper or filling it in online. We highly recommend using a secure internet browser, using Chrome or Safari or one of the standard internet browsers not going to cut it. Why? Because if you're using a secure browser, you can do a whole bunch of things to increase the security of your exam. The first thing you can do is you can block copying and pasting. Very, very simple function, but very important in an exam. You can also block other applications. So all the student can do is view his exam paper and nothing more. And you can also block internet access so that they can't go into the internet and use Google to find the answers to the questions. And then obviously, as I've mentioned a few times already, the delivering of the exams can be either traditional style or online exams. So I want to just talk about the difference and the advantages and the disadvantages of delivering traditional versus online exams. I'm calling it the old way, the traditional exams. You as the teachers will be creating exams probably now in PDF format and releasing it on your learning management system. Hopefully it's called Campus or Google Classroom. You'll be doing your physical invigilation, and then you will be manually grading these papers. And the students at the same time will be receiving the papers at a certain time. They'll be using pen and paper to write those exams, and hopefully within a few weeks or a month or two, they will receive the results of all of those exams. So those type of exams takes weeks to months. You're limited with the number of students that you can manage, and you also have to deal with physical records versus online exams. Now, you may have experienced a lot more of online examinations over the last few weeks. We have been dealing with online exams for a very long time, and it works unbelievably well. And just to go through some of the options. So firstly, you can configure an online exam. Many of the exams, or at least a large percentage of the examination, can be auto-graded, setting up multiple choice, true and false, multiple correct answers, fill in the missing words. Those type of questions can all be marked by a computer for you. You don't have to worry about the marking. It reduces the amount of time required by the students, or by you, sorry, to do the marking. But you're able to deliver the exam results to students much, much quicker. Students are able to take exams anytime, anywhere. And you could even make the results of these examinations available in real time. For high-stake exams, it doesn't really happen because you want to do some moderation on the exams before you release the results, but it is possible. Very high-stake exams are written in this format, and it works really, really well. And you've got digital records and unlimited students that can take exams in this way. So the next step is invigilation. How do you actually do the invigilation? I've spoken about using Zoom, and particularly Zoom breakout rooms. So if you put a Zoom breakout room and about 30 to 35 students in each of those, it's very easy for one invigilator to monitor those 35 or 32 students. They can monitor live exactly what is happening with each of those students, what they're doing on their screen, what their desk looks like. What we recommend doing is suggesting that students, if possible, now I know it's not always possible depending on the environment and the type of students that you're dealing with, but having a tablet or a phone which you can put on the side of the desk and connect to Zoom, that enables you to have a view of the entire desk. You can see the student, you can see the computer that he's using, you can see what's on the computer, you can see what else is on the desk, and that he doesn't have anything that's not allowed on the desk while he's writing. You can at any point as well ask the student to please take the phone and just do a 360-degree around the room so that you can examine the room to ensure that there's no one else in the room that's helping the students. You can do this randomly for a few students, etc. This way you can monitor the students' behavior and their actions for any suspicious activity. Often you'll see students, if they keep looking like that or in funny ways, it could be suspicious, and you can deal with that student separately and ask them to show you around the room, etc. Also, a great advantage is that you can record the Zoom session. So you have a recording of every single student while they're writing the examination. And the beauty of that is that you don't have to monitor everyone all the time, because after the examination, if you suspect anything, you can always go back to the recording. And recordings are not in real time. You can play them in a fast forward method where they're going from 3 up to even 20 times the speed. So you can invigilate an entire 2-hour exam in just a couple of minutes and identify if there's any suspicious activity with any of the students. Here's a photo of a student sitting in front of his computer. The exam paper is open on his computer using a secure browser. so that the student can't do anything else but view the exam. You can't go to Google, he can't copy and paste, he can't open other applications, he can't even print if you don't want to allow him to print. There's the paper for his examination. You can monitor the entire desk, and it's relatively easy to identify any suspicious activity, even with 30 little screens that each invigilator can monitor. So we've discussed the student writing the exam and the security of the exam, but how do we deal with receiving the exams back from the students? So if it's paper-based, the student is going to have to scan his exam paper relatively quickly and submit it to you in a secure way. So we highly recommend using the phone to scan. Everyone's got a phone, not everyone's got a scanner. Using the notes facility on an iPhone, or downloading the free application called CS or CAM Scanner, students can easily take photos of every single one of the pages of the examination paper. It could be 30 sheets of paper. And at the click of a button, it will compile all those photos, all those 30 sheets of paper into one PDF document. The student can then upload that PDF document by firstly just emailing it to themselves, and then upload it into your learning management system. There are secure ways of doing this in both Col Campus as well as Google Classroom, and I'm sure all other LMSs as well. And you can ensure that the exams get locked down after the defined grace period. So you may give students 5 or 10 minutes, and that's it, to scan and to upload their exam papers. And after those 10 minutes, you lock the submission option. And so students won't be able to submit their papers after that. And there are secure ways of doing this to ensure that students can't retract the submission or submit a second time or that type of thing. So just to go through the options, traditional exams can be scanned and uploaded. You can use your phone scanning apps, as I mentioned. I use the notes facility that comes free and standard with any iPhone. It's an amazing application. You just open it and you choose to start scanning, and you point it to the piece of paper. It literally identifies the piece of paper and takes the photo for you, and then waits for you to put the next sheet of paper in front. And then it will just keep on taking photos automatically and then produce a PDF file, and you can upload. Same thing applies with a CS CAM scanner software, which you can download on either an iPhone or any Android device. You must provide the students a set time to do this. You can't leave it open-ended and expect them not to cheat and to go back to their papers and find the correct answers and change them. Give them the 10 minutes grace period, and they must upload after that, and then thereafter it gets locked down. If you are unsure of how to do secure submissions and releases of exam papers, whether it's in Col Campus or Google Classroom, feel free to make contact with us. We'll be happy to advise you on how to do that. Specifically on the lockdown of exams in Col Campus and